Everyone thought the boy was just shy until he gave a barely visible signal to a therapy dog, and the dog's reaction revealed a truth the court had completely missed. You could sit in a room with Javon Merrick for hours and still not know if he liked you. Not because he was rude, but because he just didn't talk. 12 years old, skinny, dark-skinned, always pulling at the sleeves of his hoodie like they were hiding him from the world, Javon walked into the courtroom in Toledo, Ohio, that morning barely making eye contact with anyone. He didn't cry, smile, or even blink much. When the court officer tried to give him a soft pat on the back as he guided him to the table, Javon didn't move, flinch, or lean in. He just sat across from his foster parents, Gerald and Lynette Bosley, a couple in their late 40s who, on paper, looked ideal, churchgoers, daycare owners, no criminal history. But today wasn't about what was on paper. Today was about what couldn't be written down. The courtroom had a chill that didn't come from the air conditioning, the kind you get when no one's sure of the good guy or the villain. Javon was the only child of Marquita Merrick, a woman who died during a failed surgical procedure 2 years earlier, with no father listed on his birth certificate. He'd been passed around 3 homes in 14 months. The Bosleys were his latest placement, and something about them didn't sit right with his school counselor. There hadn't been bruises or hospital visits, but there were notes. Teachers saying Javon flinched when spoken to, barely ate at lunch, stared out the window too long. Nothing that screamed danger, just odd patterns. Still, CPS didn't have enough to remove him. Until now. Judge Russell Cronmore, in his 60s and known for his impatience with courtroom theatrics, watched Javon like a man trying to see through fogged-up glass. The boy wasn't putting on a show. He sat next to his court-appointed guardian, eyes locked on his own fingers. The prosecutor leaned in. "Javon, do you remember what happened last month at home? You can tell us anything you want." No response, not even a head shake. "Do you feel safe with the Bosleys?" Still nothing. "He's not ignoring you," the guardian said softly. "He just doesn't speak unless he has to." Judge Cronmore rubbed his forehead. "Doesn't speak or won't? He speaks sometimes, but he's shut down lately." That's when someone opened the side door, and a woman with a beige vest entered, holding a leash. A large golden retriever, Oscar, padded beside her, calm, ears perked, tail swaying gently. "We thought he might help ease Javon's anxiety," the handler said. "He's a licensed therapy animal." With no objections, she led Oscar to Javon's table. The boy didn't smile, but he moved, barely. His left pinky flicked once, then again, then with the most subtle gesture, he twitched his wrist and tapped his thumb twice against his thigh. Oscar's head popped up, ears perking in a different way, his gaze locking onto Javon. For the first time that morning, the boy's eyes moved, not to the judge or the lawyers, just to the dog. Judge Cronmore caught it. So did the prosecutor. "What was that?" the judge asked. The handler looked confused. That wasn't one of our standard signals, but he did respond. Something in the dog's posture told the room this wasn't just another silence. Oscar didn't bark or growl, but he didn't relax either. He stayed upright, focused, like he'd just been told something only he could hear. Javon didn't flinch or glance around for attention. It wasn't a cry for help performed on cue. He just kept his eyes on the dog, hands folded neatly in his lap, calm, too calm for a kid in the courtroom. The handler tilted her head slightly. "He's alerting," she muttered. "Alerting to what?" the judge asked. "I don't know yet." Oscar inched forward, his nose brushing against Javon's knee. The boy didn't move, but his thumb tapped again, a second time, then a pause, then one final tap. Oscar lay down flat on the floor, not in a relaxed way but stiff, eyes open, pressed tight against Javon's leg. The room went quiet. "What does that mean?" the prosecutor asked. The handler exhaled. "Oscar's trained to detect signs of trauma. Those taps, the ones the boy made, weren't random. It's a learned signal." Javon still hadn't said a word, but the courtroom was hanging on everything he wasn't saying. Gerald Bosley shifted in his seat, visibly uncomfortable. Lynette glanced at him, her face tight. No one else was watching them. All eyes were on the boy and the dog. The judge leaned forward. "Javon, where'd you learn that signal?" The boy's lips parted slightly. "My grandfather," he whispered. When asked to repeat it, Javon spoke a bit louder this time. My grandfather taught me. The handler asked gently, When did he teach you that? Before he died, when I stayed with him. You trained dogs with him? Javon nodded. And what does that signal mean? The one you just gave Oscar. He looked at the dog. That I need help, but I can't say why. No one spoke for a beat. Then Oscar stood up and walked across the courtroom toward Gerald Bosley. Slow, cautious. Lynette reached to pull her husband's arm, but Gerald froze. Oscar stopped a foot away and growled, low, constant, focused. He's reacting to something specific, the handler said. Gerald slammed his hand on the table. This is absurd. You're letting a child and a mutt destroy our name. Judge Cronmore stared directly at him. You're one outburst away from contempt. Sit down. The handler stepped closer. Your Honor, dogs like Oscar don't just respond to behavior. They pick up on tone, body tension, send changes. He's reacting to something real. The prosecutor turned to Javon. Did Gerald ever touch you? A pause. Then, softly, not where people could see. Lynette stood up, panicked. He's lying. That boy has always hated us. He's difficult, withdrawn. The judge interrupted. We're going to take the word of a child who uses trained service commands to communicate because adults failed him too many times to count. He motioned to the bailiff to escort Lynette out. During a recess, the judge, guardian, and handler stayed with Javon. The boy revealed Gerald was his uncle, a connection no one had caught before. He said, Your mama never gave me no respect. Now I got you. The judge's expression darkened. Gerald had manipulated the system to gain access to Javon. The handler suggested placing Javon with someone from his grandfather's network, a trauma-certified caregiver who worked with dogs. The judge approved it immediately. Outside the courtroom, word spread, not as gossip, but as quiet respect for a boy who communicated more clearly in silence than anyone had with words. Javon was placed with Ramona Ellis, an ex-military K-9 handler who understood trauma. She gave him space, didn't push him to talk, and let him rebuild trust at his own pace. Over time, Javon began to smile more, eat full meals, and sleep through the night. One day, he started writing a notebook titled, How to Train Dogs Who Listen Without Words. Judge Cronmore kept Javon's file as a reminder that justice doesn't always come from the loudest voices. Sometimes, it comes from those who are quiet too long. The lesson? When someone goes silent, don't assume they have nothing to say. Maybe they're just waiting for the right kind of listener.